we've seen the BELA Act being passed into law, and unfortunately that presents a massive threat to the Afrikaans language being a learning medium in schools. And again, we've seen how just as was the case with the EWC, we have these supporters of it. So I'm going to play devil's advocate here, Ernst, and say, I actually did a bit of research on this, and I see that a lot of these supporters seem to like to say that the BELA Act is good because, in their words, it makes it compulsory for grade R students to attend school. So it means that obviously more children will they'll have it will be mandatory for them to receive an education, which is a good thing. And then it also expands government control over admissions and language policies. So in their minds, well, because it will be more centralized planning, I'll leave my personal feelings like that out. But in their minds, because it involves that, they would think, okay, well, at least the standard can be raised across the board. So what would your response be to people that still seem to be adamant in their support of the BELA Act, particularly when it comes to Afrikaans?
I think it's important that we steel-man the opposition in regards to what their arguments are. So I think that's important that you've done that there. But the responses there, Law, firstly, if an act has many different aspects to it and some of them are positive, that's like me making a stew or some type of dish for you and saying, well, there's good thing, there's vegetables in it, there's some meat in it, but there's also a poison tablet in there, but that's fine, just don't worry about it. The poison tablet is only 5% of the stew, so it probably isn't that big of a deal. And that's how a lot of very destructive government legislation is pushed through. It has some good elements to it, and then they just fixate on the good elements and tell you to ignore the absolutely destructive elements. Particularly that clause in regards to the centralized power that it gives to the state over admissions and language policies. What that effectively does is it takes away power from school governing bodies, those people that are from the community where that school is, that know the community, know the needs of it, know the values of that community, know how a school can best serve the community where it is. And it takes away the power from those school governing bodies from a community level to a state level. And it tells the state it gives the state the power to then decide what's best for that community, which has never turned out well throughout history and in the present. There's just so many examples. And particularly in regards to admissions and language policies, you then put this power into the hands of politicians like Panyaza Lesufi, who is a vehement anti-Afrikaans bigot, who said that, a few years ago, he visited an Afrikaans school and he was quoted as saying that he was disgusted to find that all the students and teachers at the school were Afrikaans and that the medium of education was Afrikaans there. And you're giving that type of disgusting politician the power then to decide what admission and language policies a school should have. Well, the result is very obvious what's going to happen. Politicians who hate Afrikaans are then going to tell Afrikaans schools, well, you have to start admitting English students as well, which not only causes a massive just administrative problems for the school, because now they have to hire English teachers, they have to do their announcements and school assemblies all in dual language, all of their printouts need to be dual language, all of the exams. It just completely disrupts the entire administration of that school, almost makes it in many cases impossible for the school to run itself effectively. And then what we've seen happen at the universities is going to happen at these schools, and that is when the school has a certain percentage of English students, the demand is going to come, well, we need to turn this school into an English school now. It makes no sense to keep a dual medium. It's too expensive. It's too complicated. It's causing too much problems. Let's just turn it into an English school now. And that usually happens long before 51% are English, but when let's say, for argument's sake, when 51% of the school becomes English, then that call just becomes too powerful, and then the school turns into, from a dual, it goes from a single medium Afrikaans school to a dual medium school to a single medium English school. And this pattern has been playing out at every single Afrikaans medium university in this country over the past few years. I saw it play out at Stellenbosch while I was there, which is supposedly this dual medium university. No, it's now officially just an English university in all but official documentation. It still proclaims to be a multilingual university, but it is, for all intents and purposes, de facto an English university now. And I saw the same arguments being made. Oh, it's just a small amount of English. We're just going to be doing dual medium. This is the new status quo. No, that is the transition period. The transition period is dual medium, and then it transitions to single medium English, and then Afrikaans students has nowhere to get Afrikaans medium education. And the evil thing about it is every single study on this issue shows that when you are taught in your home language, your performance in your subject increases, and it is good for students at the very least in primary school to get education in their mother tongue. But it's even better if they can get it primary school and high school and tertiary. And the thing is, this is the decision that the ANC made in the 90s. There are two options. They could either develop the other languages of South Africa in the same way that Afrikaans was developed from a basic language, just a casual language, to a language that you do your PhD in at the highest level. They could have chosen that path, but that would have been difficult. So they didn't do that. They just chose the path of let's standardize everything into English, which has been incredibly destructive for South Africa. So it's the onslaught against mother tongue education is not just an onslaught against Afrikaans, even though Afrikaans is particularly being singled out. It is an onslaught against the very idea of home language education, which is a net positive for anyone, whether that be someone who speaks Afrikaans at home or Zulu or Sotho or whatever language in South Africa. They are being denied the opportunity to be educated in their home language, which has a detrimental effect. I think it has such a detrimental effect that is one of the major factors why South Africa is performing so badly in almost all educational metrics, is the fact that the majority of South Africans are not receiving education in their home language, which is a major detriment to them. But yeah, that's in short the BELA Act's threat to minority communities in particular, but to South Africa at large as well.
Of course. And what's really interesting to me, Ernst, is you mentioned how there was that study conducted. And I remember the Department of Basic Education commissioning it. And my big question was, why do you even need a study? Because in my mind, it's just common sense. You know, you're a multilingual, I'm a multilingual. I'd say most South Africans are. And it's obvious that if you learn in your mother tongue, it's going to be easy because you don't have to sit in class and process everything in a foreign language and then try to make sense of it to yourself and then, you know, use that to finally start learning the concept. You can just learn the concept.
Yeah, it's you're learning that new concept in the language that you think. And I mean, maths was difficult enough for me in school. I don't want to even think about what it would have been like if I had to be taught maths in English as well. It would have just added such a new level of difficulty. So it just makes sense to promote mother tongue education. And it is possible. It's not an impossible task. I mean, there are blueprints of languages that were developed from a basic level to the highest level in the previous century. Afrikaans was one of them. Hebrew was another one. And there was, I think there was two Asiatic or Eastern languages as well. That I think there's 4 or 5 examples of the blueprint of languages being taken from a level where it's not at the highest academic level and within a century being developed to the highest level. And it's just through commitment. People saying, well, we're going to do this. We're going to be committed to developing this language, building this language, taking it from level 1 to level 10. And it's possible. Like I said, the blueprints are there. So there isn't even an excuse for the ANC to say, oh, well, it can't be done. Like, no, it has been done. And it's metaphorically open source. You can just go look at how these languages in the past, in the 20th century, achieved it. Afrikaans being one of them. So they can use a local example of a language being developed in that way, and that can be applied to the other languages in South Africa, but they chose the opposite.